Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Change Your Perspective, Change Your Awareness, Change Your Life. I'm Dr. Michelina, and we're talking about the multiple intelligences theory. There we go. And so, in talking about it, we've covered, I think, about 5 of them at this point. We just covered music, and so we've covered music, space, body, math, numbers, logic, and words. And so today we're going to talk about another one that I bet you didn't know existed, right? And this one is called the interpersonal intelligence, right? This means you're people smart. Interpersonal, meaning you and the world around you. There's another one we'll talk about called intrapersonal, right? Having to do with you and yourself. And so interpersonal intelligence has to do with the ability to understand people really well, what they're motivated by, what they desire, their intentions, the sort of motivating factors behind behavioral choices. It helps people who are interpersonally intelligent, it helps them to work more effectively with people. So people who are highly interpersonally intelligent tend to be good at being cohesive, right? They're very cohesion based. They are connectors, right? So like when I meet people who are interpersonally intelligent, they usually are very good at cooperating. They're very good at moving and working with people in ways that some of the other intelligences really aren't, because this, like all intelligences, right? It's the way in which your brain interacts with that thing, right? So like, as someone who's linguistically intelligent, the way my brain interacts with words is like seamless. It's favorable. It's not hard. Whereas the way my brain interacts with numbers, it is hard. There's a little friction there. It's not natural. It's not as natural. And so somebody who is interpersonally intelligent, they tend to work well with the people around them, right? That's kind of what it looks like. And so there's a lot to be said for interpersonal intelligence being very understated, right? And I know that that's kind of a theme through these lessons, right? It's like everything is understated that isn't obvious and overt, right? Not hard to really understand words or numbers because we see a lot of that in school, but there's nowhere that teaches you how to get along with others. Like we don't have any school for that. We probably should. We need to, right? That's leadership 101. How do we get along with others? And so interpersonal, guys, I can't right now. My hair is just being crazy. I'm like looking at it, I'm like, ugh. Anyhow, sometimes just have enough. Anyway, lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, we don't have like a leadership developmental school, right? Well, actually we do. It's called Seasons in Science Academy, but and there are other now leadership development academies and things, but interpersonal intelligence having a lot to do with emotional intelligence, right? EI, if you know any of Daniel Goleman's work, he's also 1998. A lot of good research out of 98. It has to do with understanding emotions of yourself and others. And so emotional intelligence does. And so people have been saying in like the organizational leadership world that IQ is less important than EQ, because it doesn't matter what I know. If I can't convey that information to the people around me, then I'm good for nothing, right? Like, great, you know all this, but I can't tell anyone. So great, what do we do with that? Interpersonal intelligence is very good at building rapport with others. And so they're sensitive to people's moods, mood changes, their temperament. They are sort of sensitive to networking, building community, connection, right? What does this person want? How can I help them get it? Things of that nature. And so those kind of people, not surprisingly, kind of have to work with people, right? So if you're somebody who works well with data, let's say you're a numbers analyst, you might not be as interpersonal, right? You might not be as interpersonal. And so if you are not as interpersonal, you're probably okay with just like staring at a screen with data all day, or trading all day, or like just, being kind of isolated in some ways. Whereas people with high interpersonal intelligence usually tend to be, teachers, managers, or like, leaders, anybody that deals with a lot of people, public relations, sometimes like psychology, although that's not necessarily a lot of people, it's still understanding the motivations and desires between people, right? And so if you are good at sales, you probably have high interpersonal skills, because sales is all about like, what do you want and how can I get it for you, or how can I help you get it, or what can we do to make this happen? And so, I need a drink, sorry. Sorry about that. Guys, I'm a mess today. What is going on? I don't know what's happening with me. Anyway, okay, there we go. Interpersonal intelligence is highly needed and I think vastly overlooked, and certainly necessary for community building and rapport building. And so if you have it, if you find that you're very charismatic, you're naturally good at like swaying a room, bringing people together, like you probably have a high level of interpersonal intelligence. And so people with high levels of interpersonal intelligence just interact well with people. It's not hard for them to do. And again, it can be learned, it can be cultivated, it is a skill. Everything is, but some people have it more naturally than others. That's the whole thing about the intelligences. It's what you gravitate toward more naturally, right? So interpersonal intelligence, being people smart, is a very productive thing when you're working with people, right? And so being interpersonal, if you are somebody who works well with people, it's going to be very hard for you to be in situations and scenarios where people aren't involved, and so that is something that you want to be aware of as far as alignment is concerned, right? If you're like, wow, I actually, when I was a kid, I loved being kind of like around people and among people, and I thought that was really great. And now I work at like a 9-to-5 and barely talk to anybody in my desk. There's a misalignment there. The other thing about interpersonal intelligence that I want to bring up is that you can be interpersonally intelligent and people can still drain you, right? So if you know anything about Myers-Briggs, right, the personality assessment. And again, I like to use it as a diagnostic, not as a end-all be-all identifier, right? But there are some truths to these things. So I am an introvert, actually. I know people kind of get confused about this a lot, but I really am an introvert. People drain me. And an introvert versus extrovert has to do with how you respond energetically to people. Extroverts get, energized by people. Introverts get drained by them. So like for me, I know my social battery is really going to be drained quickly when I'm around people, and I need a lot of recovery time. Whereas somebody who's naturally extroverted, they don't need that. They like being out and about among people, and it energizes them, right? But even still, you can be either or and still have high levels of interpersonal intelligence, right? So like for me, I was a teacher. Now I'm kind of a psychologist, I guess, a psychoanalyst, a coach, right? And so I deal well with people's motivations. I build rapport well. That's a skill of mine. I have a high level of interpersonal intelligence. And so that's not to say that I wasn't drained dealing with people, because I was, and so like being introverted or being extroverted doesn't necessarily impact how interpersonally intelligent you are. Okay, so I want to make that a clear point, because I know sometimes people are like, yo, I don't even like people. And it's like, you might not like people. It doesn't mean you don't understand them. In fact, you might not like them because you do understand them. Okay, so like or it could be trauma. We might have rejection wounds or abandonment wounds or people wounds. There's definitely that. But ultimately, Don't count yourself out of this intelligence if you feel like, well, I don't like people. Because liking people and understanding them and what they're motivated by are two different things, right? So ask yourself, or take the quiz, do I have interpersonal intelligence? If you don't, you're going to want to work on it. Wherever you go, people are. So the more you can cultivate, okay, well, what does this person want? And to be quite frank with you, the more you know yourself, the easier it is to learn what other people want, because you don't project your desires on them. You just let them want what they want. We'll talk about intrapersonal intelligence, but interpersonal intelligence, if you are somebody who has it naturally, it's probably very, very easy to talk to people. If you are not somebody who has it, but you want to learn it, I suggest the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That is like, and that's from the 1920s, but that book is timeless in how to win friends and influence people, aka how to understand them, their motivations, their desires, how to be interpersonally intelligent, right? So this one is one you can and should cultivate if you don't have it naturally. Okay, it's important to do so, because otherwise you will be a lonely island, right? Your family, you can be interpersonally intelligent with your family, your friends, people at your job, and it's a productive one to cultivate. So if you've never thought about it, highly suggest thinking about it. Highly suggest getting that book if you need to grow this intelligence. If you have this intelligence and you're in the wrong field, highly suggest thinking of how to be more aligned. If all of this resonates, like, subscribe, tell your friends, send them the video, grow the channel. If you're ready to take the next steps in your self-growth, self-development, and intelligence journey, right, cultivating new intelligences or the ones you already have, then you can book a call. Oops, I'm getting a call. Book a call, or join Seasons in Science Academy, and I will talk to you on the next video.